So it's having that relationship and respect with nature. It's just amazing when you can get that break. And I think a lot of people, when you're so immersed in it, they never break out of that, you know.
I used to say you never knew how sick you were until you got better. And it's not until you actually can get out of that scene that you go, oh, shit, I get it now. You turn into the observer rather than the experiencer.
Yeah, so true. Yeah, you don't know what sanity is if you've always lived in an insane world. That's all you know.
It becomes your normal.
Yeah.
Yeah, true. Welcome back to Reality with Reality Hub. I've got Rob dialing in from across the world. I have a lovely guest in studio with us, Paula.
Hello there.
I'm so pleased you joined us, and you've spent some time catching up with us previously and agreed to talk on our podcast. Essentially, I was just so impressed by your point of view and your knowledge as a pharmacist. And someone who's exploring a different kind of a lifestyle than you have done in the past. Rob and I were just so stoked that you could turn up on the podcast. Thank you.
Thank you. We've all got so much to share about this whole situation from our own past, though, haven't we?
Oh, yeah, we have. Well, where should we begin, and how should we frame this up with what needs to be expressed, with the energy as we feel it at the moment?
Oh, it's pretty amped up, isn't it?
Sure is.
Isn't it?
God, I was feeling it this week. I had to switch off and just go and sit outside and do some gardening and get off the media, get off the phone, stop even worrying about something that I was having little effect on that day. It was a waste of worry.
Yeah. There are things that I participate in, Rob, you might be the same, that give me a lot of notifications on my phone that bring up a lot of prompts to push you into a certain state and feeling.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I'm with you, Paula. Yeah, I needed to unplug, and I needed to do it in the way that I like to do it, which is to go into nature and just connect with that energy. Just to remind myself that there is so much more to life, so much more to this world than just what is being pumped out into sort of the psyche. It's tough because, you know, we've said this before, it's part of our reality, and everyone's going through a different process, are at different levels of awareness. And, you know, I've come to the conclusion that everyone's kind of doing the best they can at their level of awareness. But you're right, balance is so important. Because I find, like even this, we're using technology, which is amazing. But even I have to unplug from that, unplug from the phone. Me too. So many notifications coming through, you know. It's just...
They're all supportive groups, aren't they?
Yeah,
and it's like we're not alone, but still even that gets a bit much.
Yeah. But, you know, I for me, it's still about getting that human connection in a physical way, you know. That's part of our human nature, to be able to do that, to connect on that level. So that needs to be there as well, and not relying so much always on, you know, that phone, on technology.
Yes, I have I have a group of ladies that I go. I drive an hour to go and see them every week.
You're invested.
And I am.
You're clearly invested in that group of ladies.
I am, and honestly, we laugh our heads off so much about the rubbish going on in the world today. Somehow it is funny, and when you laugh, you give it less energy. You're not floating around in the dross of it. But then, But did you notice this week with the weather that we had?
Oh yes.
Even nature was amped up about it all. It was like she was pissed off.
Yeah,
she was. Yeah.
It's funny you mentioned that because I can't remember if it's settled down now. But I've had occasions where I've listened to the wind or interpret the energy, and just instinctively, yes, certain feelings come up for me. But it's totally, because everything is energy. We're energetic beings, you know. Yeah. Nature is a force. There are forces at play. So we're affected by so much, and so we feel so much better when when the weather is settled and it's calm and the sun's shining. I mean, you can hear the birds singing, you know, everything is just, you can breathe. Now. But when the wind is amped up and there's this energy to it, it can affect me in a way where I feel very unsettled and out of sorts. And it kind of gets on my nerves. Yeah.
You get on your own nerves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, yesterday I really had a shift in my thinking. And I picked up my favourite spiritual podcast, so to speak, someone that I listen to that seems to always know how to say the right thing at the right time, which is great. And it took me through a process of letting go of some of the stuff that I was getting caught up in the drama. Wow. I mean, since the last time I saw you, I was all, oh God, these things that are happening, people need to know this and that. And I've really started to let go of that now. I would say totally, but there are still things I'm participating in at various levels. And I think we all participate for different reasons and needs, and there is a purpose for that. But it's more important, given that I now accept that there are people who are going to go through things that I expect we'll soon talk about, that will be really tough for them because of the choices they've made. Yeah. And that's not me being judgmental. It's just I think that's how it's going to go. And and we're all on a different path. And those of us who are, you know, up in arms about from maybe an alternative perspective, which is where I sit, I think we need to remember we are the ones we're waiting for. We are.
Yeah, I love that.
Right, and we are here for this moment. We are the right people for the job to be here. But it is perhaps more important that we manage our own energies effectively.
And our own expectations of what we can achieve.
Yeah.
As well. It's a big one.
And I think for me, I need to remember that I might have a very strong belief about how things are going to play out. But what am I trying to point score with people by saying, look, this is going to happen, so that in 2 years you can look back on that message from that message thread and I can go, see, I told you. I mean, what does that do for me? Nothing. Yep. Or for them, nothing. Yep. Do you think they'd even concede that point? And why would it even matter if I was right? You know, from the perspective of 2 years down the track.
Well, I don't know that any of us are wanting to say, I told you so, but I would like to say that I'm getting people coming to me going, I've been watching you for 2 years, or 18 months. And when in my previous work as a coach, I was also talking, and so they have been watching me for a long time, and they're coming to me now, and I'm getting messages from random people that I've never heard of saying, my friend has posted some of your stuff, or my friend liked something you did, and I liked it too. Can you tell me this? And I get to engage with these complete strangers, that's really encouraging. And I sort of think, oh, well, don't stop, don't give up.
But you are the thing in your orbit that influences them, not necessarily what you've got to get out and say. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And that's where things have shifted for me because a lot of this was really getting on top of me. And I didn't think it was until I felt how good I feel now. You know what? I feel like I'm back into the adventure again.
Can you describe that feeling?
Well, I tell you how I feel now, Rob, is I feel like I'm back in the adventure again. You know, if you're back in the adventure.
Adventure, right.
Yeah, sorry.
He's got a job to do.
Avenger.
Am I an Avenger? Yeah.
He's got a little cape on. It's tucked into his shorts.
Yeah. Our internet connection might not be as clear as you'd like to hear what I'm saying, but we'll get there.
That's right.
But, you know, I think I'm back in the adventure, and this is exactly the vibe I need to be in. This is exciting. This is this is interesting. This isn't fun, but this is fascinating. Mm-hmm. You know,
what I'm picking up on is something really magical happens when you start connecting to your truth. Mm-hmm. You start owning that, and you start embodying it, and you start going, well, this is me. Take it or leave it. And people are either going to resonate with that and gravitate towards you, or they don't. And I think, you know, that's the free will aspect of it. And so we're all on different stages of our personal journey. We have such a wealth of experience and knowledge and wisdom and things we want to share. And so, it is. We are the ones we are waiting for. And it's such a beautiful and powerful feeling when you can connect on that level. And I've got to keep this in check as well. Is it coming from an ego place, a fear place, or is it coming from a heart place? And as soon as there's that division, or you want something to be right, or there's a fear of losing something, that's kind of the ego. And people talk about ego death. That doesn't really happen, because the ego, I believe, is very important to navigate this reality, and it's there.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, it's a little bit like you need resistance. You need that other opposing force, if you like, to create change and growth within yourself. I've always been a big believer that if you don't change and grow and expand, then that's one of the natural laws of the universe, is this expansion, this creative process. So it comes back down to where you're at and the intention you want to create in the world. And to your point, Steve, you'll know this, reality management, managing your reality.
Right.
Because everything that's happening within you is actually just a reflection of the outer world.
And everything that's happening within me is projecting into the outer world. And so, you talk about what gravitates to you and what resonates with you. If you think of yourself as your own little star system in the universe, maybe you are a sun in some fractal nature of some part of yourself, and some agreement somewhere in the universe. You are a sun somewhere, and you have planets that orbit you, just like we have friends and family that orbit us. What is the light that you're shedding out, to use a phrase we've heard too much recently, and shining out to those planets? What are you giving to them? And that's when things change for me. Also, I must admit, I had to get my head around some of the challenges that we face on a very physical life, day-to-day management stuff, where there are friends and family who are being told that this imposition of a jab must go into their system or they lose their job. I had to get my head around that for myself, and to how in our lives and in our family, how we're going to cope with that, with the decisions we're going to make, with what is being pushed upon us. So, I've had to come to grips with alternative arrangements, and as soon as I did, I felt amazing.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah. And then
things are going to be different.
They're going to be so different.
They can't be the same. Do we want them the same?
No. I don't think that's what we're here for. We're not here to have the same old, are we? Yesterday, I was thinking these thoughts. I was going through this process. I was out on a bike ride in nature. I'm lucky that I'm in a place where I can do that.
Great
just
spot.
Like Rob got out. And I sat looking at this murky stream on a bridge, and for a kilometre either direction, there was no one around me. I could see down the bike path on both. I just sat there, and it was quiet, and birds were talking, and oh my God, they were really talking, and there were ducks coming past and chatting to each other, and there were families of animals coming past as I'd ride my bike. Little young spring bulls were running alongside me, looking at me and galloping along. Like they'll never do that again in a year or so, because they stop moving this fast after they get older, don't they? But it was just nature was talking to me. It was beautiful. And at one point I was surrounded by sandflies just all around me,
Wow.
and they used to sort of sting and bite me. And I just sat amongst it, and I'd felt nothing. They didn't hurt. They were just being with me. And I looked down from the bridge that looked over this long stream, and I saw this wake of movement in the water. And I went, what is that? And then as it got closer and closer, the water became sort of less murky on the object, and it was this massive red fish.
Really?
And I couldn't believe it. Massive red fish, and it went past. And I stayed, and I saw a couple of smaller ones go in different directions, and that massive red fish went under the bridge and kept going until, for as far as the eye could see, and it returned later with two other massive red fishes that came back.
My goodness.
And I couldn't believe it, and I told a friend, and he said, well, it's not the same of dreaming of fish, but this dream dictionary says you're in for good fortune if you see that. I was like, I'll take it. I'll take it.
What a cool friend.
Yeah.
Great.
So, when we were talking, we were discussing the medications being imposed upon people in the jab. And what should we say? What should we say for people who don't know?
They don't think it's being imposed upon them. So what I have seen, I've been a pharmacist for 30 years, and I had my own businesses, and 5.5 years ago I left the industry because I didn't feel I was making a change to health that I was wanting to do. And so I stopped being a pharmacist and went and did a lot of study in human behaviour and Neurolinguistic Programming, or NLP, and mind-body techniques. And also I left the country and lived overseas for 4 years, and I was able to observe in that country the human behaviour of those people. And also when I came back to New Zealand, it felt like I was observing what was going on here as well, and I noticed a distinct change in how our news was delivered. Instead of just sitting there like robots and reading the news, they would lean forward on their desk and pretend that they were telling you a secret. And
gossiping with you.
Yeah, it turned into gossip news, and it was really uncomfortable because I thought, well, why should I trust you? Why should I actually listen to you? So I noticed how that was all changing, and then a lot of people were watching breakfast news, and especially over where I was, breakfast news is always on. So they were getting this gossip in the morning, and they were getting gossip at night, and then they were getting gossip just before bed as well. And it was getting a bit much. I stopped watching the gossip.
That's one hell of a carefully planned program of schedule of gossip.
Yes, because it's been going on for quite a while.
Before you have to head off to work, right? It's in all of those key moments as your
yes.
brain is just sort of relaxing into starting the day and then going into sleep again.
Yes,
yeah.
Absolutely. So I was noticing all that going on. And then when the outbreak started happening over in China and Italy, I was thinking, this is jolly weird for a virus, people falling down dead. This hasn't happened. And we were seeing people falling down dead awkwardly in the street. It was being beamed over to the newspapers and the TVs, and these people were just falling dead, but it turned out later on they were acting. They weren't actually falling down dead.
Yeah.
But it was our news. And then I saw in the newspaper, I saw a big picture of all these coffins in a gymnasium. Turned out to be a scene from a movie that they'd taken and said it was dead people from this virus. And then around me, the people started to get really panicky. And the chap I was talking to, he said, oh my God, my son's at university and they've got a case there. And what do I do? What do I do? And I'm thinking, you just do what you normally do for the flu. You just, don't want to get it, but you would just be healthy. Eat well, eat food worth eating, take the supplements and go about your day and know that you're not going to get it, that your immune system's fine. But he was really, really scared. Over in the country I was in, they used to do a daily trolley report on the radio. And it was a report of the number of people in hospital around the country who were waiting for a bed, and they were waiting on trolleys.
Right.
And 1 January, I'm sure the number was 950 something, 956, say. So these were people who were waiting for a bed in the hospitals around the country, and it's not the biggest country in the world. And I thought, wow, that's a health system I don't want to have to take part of. It's clearly overwhelmed. And then they go on about let's not overwhelm our health system. I thought, well, that doesn't make sense. It already is. So I started to take more notice of what was going on in the media. Then of course we got all the yellow and white signs going up in the country, and the slogans, be kind.
This is in another country.
This is in another country.
It's just like our country.
Yeah, it was.
It's as if the same puppet masters are operating different puppets.
Very weird.
Yeah.
Absolutely. The same slogans were being used by the different leaders, because I also came back in March, so I got to see what was going on over there. And then I got to see what was going on here, and it's like, this is very odd. They're all saying the same thing. Did you have road signs that used to give speed warnings now telling you? I didn't see those.
We get that here,
Those big signs had been going up over the previous 2 years on the motorways.
Just like they have here.
Yeah.
Yeah, where road signs
now give you
they now give you medical advice on the road.
Yeah. Stay safe, we care, be kind.
Get your vaccination.
Get your vax.
Yeah. It's everywhere. It's on Google Maps as well that you're in a restricted area.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I don't know if you've noticed that.
Yeah, I think at one point I did notice that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'll get back to New Zealand in March, and right in the height of the lockdown, just started here, and I did buy into the panic at one stage at Heathrow Airport. It took me 5 days to actually get home with cancelled flights. I wasn't allowed on some, and it was a nightmare, and I bought into the panic once when a lady sat beside me. And I shot her a look. It was like, how dare you sit beside me and kill me? And I thought, oh, hang on a minute. You bought into it, mate. Yeah, you're all good. Just stay there.
Were you covered in PPE at that point?
I did have some disposable gloves and a mask and a goggle, and I happened to lose the goggles. I happened to lose the mask, and I thought, don't need them
It's
anyway.
kind of
Right.
the whole fight or flight was activated, right, for a lot of people.
Very much, and it still is.
So the fear sort of comes in first, because that happened to me as well. And then the intuitive knowing, the wisdom, the logic, everything else started to filter through and go, hang on a minute, this is not feeling right.
So we've been under a program over the last few years of fear, of bad news. Bad news sells, they all go.
Yeah.
And it's fear. And what it has done is raised the bar in our internal wiring, our internal nervous system, sympathetic activation, which is...
Would you agree that as it raises that sympathetic activation, that it started prior to COVID-19 with fear in other ways, like, climate and stuff?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I didn't mean to interrupt.
Fear and shame. No, you're right.
Yeah, where you were going with that. But it's just, as soon as you said over the last few years, I thought, well, hang on, we've only really been dealing with this for 18 months. But then, over the last few years, things have started to raise the bar in fear before this even started.
Well, it was going on with bird flu, same program. AIDS, similar program. Be scared of that invisible virus with a trillions list of symptoms.
Sure.
This invisible virus that is going to get you.
A real catch-all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we've been worried about our health, and I used to say in the pharmacy, with all the best intentions I had, it's not going to be a bomb that takes us out, it'll be a virus.
Yeah, funny.
I used to say that, and it's like, oh, shit, I'm really sorry for spreading that horror.
Explain to me how that is, because I did interrupt you, I apologise, but you're saying it raises the sympathetic nervous system, is that right?
Yeah, so our sympathetic nervous system is, we've got a wiring, we've got a sympathetic reaction and a parasympathetic reaction.
Yeah.
And the sympathetic, when you are in sympathetic, it doesn't mean, oh, there, poor you kind of thing. It means run for your life. You're under threat. Some people will fight. Some will, they'll stand there and fight. Others will run for the hills. Others will freeze, you don't know how you're going to behave in a moment. If a car was coming at you, you don't know what you're going to do. And then there's actually another thing, you fawn. So there's flight, freeze, and fawn. So
what's that one?
I liken it to a dog. If you beat a dog up, some dogs will try and be your friend afterwards. You try and make friends with your captor, and you will fawn over them. And you can see that with kids who are abused.
Stockholm syndrome?
Yeah, that sort of thing. How you start to, I love my captor. Because the way to save your own life is to be their friend.
To comply.
And comply. Yeah. So we've had a high level of very clever programming that has raised the bar of our sympathetic nervous systems to the point of some people will comply because they want people to like them. And if they like you, they're not likely to hurt you. And I liken the campaign that's going on now to, and the people's reactions to it, many people's reactions to it, to being cheated on. And I don't know if you've ever been cheated on. It sucks. It really sucks. So you've got your heart that goes, no, they love me. They would only do things for the best. E.g., the government. They're only wanting the best for me. They only want my health. And the head's going, this is a bit weird. You've got to look at this. And the heart's going, no, of course I'm going to watch at 4 o'clock because she loves me. The podium of truth is going to make sure I'm healthy. This is for my own good. And the head's going, this sucks. You've got to look at other stuff. You've got to start looking around. And the heart, no, be quiet. Because our hearts are very, very strong. Then one day, the heart goes, oh, you were right, and the heart is then broken. Nobody wants a broken heart because they hurt. And a broken heart, your heart is where you hold trust.
Yeah.
And if trust is broken, that really, really hurts. So a lot of people won't even go there. And they choose to believe, yes, it's for your own good, or yes, they love me. So logic will not get a word in. The head won't get a word in with this. And I see it as the same as a lot of people don't want to know they're being cheated on. It's the same as boys and girls in love. Our hearts hold our emotion, and our hearts, yes, they hold the trust, but it's also backed up. When you are in alignment, it's backed up by the gut. And our gut is where we hold our sense of safety and self-preservation, also self-identity. And we've been taught to not listen to our intuition, which is the gut feeling. So when the gut is in a state of fight or flight, and when the gut is sympathetically activated, it's going, I've got to live here. It's too dangerous out there. I'm going to put on my mask and save our life. And the heart's going, yes, it's because they love me and they want us for the best. And the head's going, dude, you guys, you're not listening. Listen to this. The heart and the gut's going, shut up. We've got a life to save and it's my life. And so the head doesn't get heard, and that's not in alignment.
It creates a real inner conflict and separation, right?
It does. Sometimes the head is in alignment.
Yeah, but when you're not
going,
in
look
alignment,
at this evidence I've found to back up.
An internal division and struggle, which then kind of manifests out into the outside world. You start seeing it play out.
Yes.
Yeah.
But the heart is full of compassion. And that's where we hold compassion and kindness. And this is where they have tapped their programming into our heart first. Compassion. I don't want your grandmother to die. I don't want her to die, but I'm not going to take an injection for her. It's my self-preservation is stronger than my wish for your grandmother to die, but I don't want her to die. You know what I mean? So the heart can exercise dumb compassion.
Especially if it's presented with a very clear and simple way to get out of this problem that allows you to not have to think too hard, especially when you're confronted with fear and you don't feel as though you have time to think.
And we've been backed into a corner, haven't we?
We have.
We need two mortgages and 4 jobs to hold our house. I heard a really good one the other day. Someone said, why is it that intelligent people are taking the injection? And I went, well, it's not a measure of intelligence, but the Podium of Truth mentioned it the other day, that people who don't take the injection are not intelligent and need training.
Really?
And
Is
I
that
thought,
right?
how fucking rude.
It said that, did it?
Yes, he did. And so this woman, and she wasn't very good at putting sentences together, but she was a random woman who suddenly started messaging me, asking questions. She said, how come the intelligent people are taking the injection? Well, I mentioned that to my partner, and he said, intelligent people have bigger mortgages.
Yeah, that's right.
And there is that trap that they're in.
Yeah.
It's money. It's control by money. It's
We've
not an
also-
intelligence thing all the time at all.
Not at all.
Yeah, we've also been taught to, what's the word? I was going to say worship intelligence, but it's a status, isn't it? You're highly intelligent. That
It
puts you
is.
on a sort of status in society, and then we look up to those people because they're more intelligent. We get taught that at schools. Oh, well, that person's more intelligent. There's so many different other levels of wisdom and intelligence.
Well, again, intelligence is a catch-all phrase to imply a certain status as well, I think.
Yep.
People who are intelligent at school to do well and get their A versus their B bursary,
Yes.
to make it into a certain level of a qualification or to pursue their parents' dreams to become a doctor or who knows, a pharmacist or a dentist or right, because that might have been your dream all along.
It was.
I often see though there are some people out there, and I noticed this in my former life as a rep into the medical community, and some of those guys, they clearly were seeking status. They really were, and they were clearly given a tremendous amount of pressure as little boys and girls to, get the violin lessons and then get the high grades and all the way through, and that's that success that their parents are hoping for them to have is part of a program that their parents have been given, that they're passing on, and they call it intelligence.
Intelligence is so... I'm intelligent in this. I'm not intelligent when it comes to having to carve a cow. I don't know how to get that calf out. Intelligence, the thing I think with high intelligence, you have a smaller lens.
Yeah, and I think
and
it comes at
university is giving us a small lens for many people.
Certain costs too. If you put all your energy into passing your exams at the highest possible level, for some people, unless it's a breeze for them, for some people it's at the expense of social intelligence or emotional intelligence.
Yeah, that's right. There's all those others. I know at pharmacy school I gave up weekends in the sun. I gave up evenings out because I had to study like a banshee.
Yeah, totally.
And when I graduated and when I qualified, I thought I knew everything, and I had invested in my time and socialness into that, knowing everything. I had an overdraft, nothing like the poor old kids these days with their student loans. That's another trap. I thought I knew everything until about 3 weeks after I qualified. It was like I got bumped down to earth again.
Amazing.
Realised I didn't know everything. And then having children, oh my God, that changed everything. I didn't know a thing.
Is there a trap in that industry that you see other pharmacists fall into in terms of a way of life or a way of thinking?
Yeah, a bit of both.
Yeah.
I actually put a request out to find other pharmacists who might be wanting to question things, contact me, because I'd like to find a support group, because I got booted out of my pharmacist group because I had some funny opinions.
Huh.
Opinions?
Opinions.
Yeah.
Oh.
So I got 3. So, and there were other people saying, give this person a call, give this person a call. So I've got 3. But I don't know. You can be a slave to the system and choose not to see. Yeah. Although I have to say, when I was working, I was a World Health Organisation slave. You know, the vaccine schedule, my kids were marched along, get this. Even though I know now, I can see back now, what was I thinking?
Really?
Yeah. I just didn't know to look beyond what they said. I trusted them completely.
What changed?
When I only had an option in the pharmacy world and doctor world, I had an option that I didn't want to take with certain medication for my daughter.
Right.
And homeopathy worked.
That's not allowed to happen.
No, it's not. And I told the doctor and got mocked and laughed out of his office. And at that stage, there was a business, mortgages, and social standing in the community. I thought, sure, I better be quiet about this. Humiliation. Yeah. So the humiliation was bigger, I think. Oh. So kept quiet for a little while, but started looking around under the radar.
Well, that is a truth that persists, and it's very, very close to your heart. It's your children.
Yeah.
I mean, what happened. Yeah. Something that wasn't meant to worked.
Then something else happened a few years later, and it was kinesiology that fixed it.
Really?
Yeah. Rather than medication in the lunchbox. It was kinesiology that sorted that out, so I had to go and study kinesiology, and I was like, whoa, this is awesome. There's so much out here. Kinesiology
blows my tiny little brain. It's
fabulous.
Its ability to get to the heart of things and your inner knowing always impresses me.
Well, we use kinesiology my partner and I are involved in soil health now, and we use kinesiology to show the farmers the toxicity of their soil.
Really?
And you want to see their jaws, they just drop on the ground when their own body is telling them how toxic their soil is, and that maybe they could use different practices.
Wow.
It's really cool.
I bet even if they don't like that answer, they can't stop thinking about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's great. It's absolutely great. But there's a lot of things coming out now, and this is something that I'm really worried for our young kids, and this injection that's going around, it has thrown up a lot of clots in a lot of people. And even my own birth father died of the injection in Australia 2 months ago. He had clots in the lungs, hearts, kidneys, and died.
This is something I want to make sure people who are in New Zealand understand, that just because our country doesn't have access to some of these other vaccinations, which seemingly have worse side effects, or at least that's how the media has portrayed it here, so that, hey, we've got the good one.
Yeah.
Can you speak to the truth of that as well as what you're about to tell us with this story?
Yeah, sure.
Because I think people go, oh, it's all right, we've avoided those problems, we don't get Moderna, or we don't get J&J.
Yeah. So the other injections throw up the clots as well. And Lynn had the AstraZeneca. It was sold to him as being safer for old people.
Right.
And it took eight and a half weeks where his breathing got seriously bad. He kept falling over, couldn't bring the firewood, and ultimately died. And yeah, he was 79. He's an old man. He had no other problems, which was amazing.
Up to that
he was
point,
pretty
healthy. Yeah.
Healthy guy.
Yeah.
So I was thinking about the clots, and when I was doing pharmacy, I sold Viagra. And I sold Viagra for erectile dysfunction, which is
ED.
ED, yes. Floppy coxagon, it's called.
Oh dear.
Strangely, Viagra is from Pfizer.
Of course.
So they have the answers for everything. So I used to get these men in the office, and I'd have to go through 2 sides of an A4 piece of paper with questions on what happens down there. Because part of the reason is because one of the first signs of clotting issues is erectile dysfunction. It comes about 4 or 5 years before heart attack, it turns out.
Right.
So I'd ask these blokes, and it's humiliating. It's humiliating for them. And it's also in order for them to have good sex for them and their partner, they've got to take a pill for it. So that's not very cool. Well, microclots, like I said, are the first sign of heart attack, and it goes to the penis. And one of the places it goes is the penis. And this injection is not called clot shot for nothing. And what worries me now is that these young lads are getting the injection. Microclots to a young lad, or even a middle-aged lad, if it creates erectile dysfunction, not only is it destroying their pleasure for sex, their partner's pleasure for sex, but it also affects fertility as well. So my concern is the sexual capacity of our young kids is being impacted by these microclots, which show up before heart attack. Doesn't mean to say you will get a heart attack, but it's a serious indication that your blood's not working right, and it shows up there. And I think young lads actually need to hear that it's a side effect. You can Google erectile dysfunction and COVID-19, and it will say, oh yeah, COVID-19 will give you erectile dysfunction, and etc., etc. Well, you think about whether you want to have sex while you've got the flu, or even if you've got a head cold, you don't even want to have sex. So yes, it will impact your sexual pleasure if you get this. So my message is the injection has got a massive, massive chance. It's showing up. It's being reported on overseas. that erectile dysfunction is being reported on more and more and more. So you won't see it on the MedSafe.
It's certainly an early warning of a side effect.
A very early warning. So why take a clot shot to give yourself a really, really high chance of erectile dysfunction?
Well, that's not even the worst of things, obviously. But it's certainly something that some people are so proud of.
For some lads, it's their pride and joy.
Yeah.
If you take away their pride and joy,
I think
they'd rather have the COVID.
You're right to think that might catch their attention more than some other things. Yeah.
So the microclots.
That is something to think about.
Yeah, fascinating. I mean, I was just thinking how many people really did their own research and took time to really think about what they're doing to their bodies and, the possible side effects. I'm not sure. I mean, even when you do go to get the jab, is there a consent form? Is there a list of side effects that are listed for you to take in and consider?
I don't know. Because
I'm
not
just
even
curious.
gone. I don't even think they can answer your questions if you say, what are the side effects?
Are
know
people even
someone
getting the pamphlet inside the shop?
I do know someone who said no, there isn't that. So I'll take and he's a reliable source. But I just wonder how many people would just, as you mentioned right at the start, you hand your power and trust over to someone without
Rob,
actually questioning it.
And
this is not just this, but any situation in life. I think you take out life insurance and you want to know the terms and conditions. I think obviously when you hire a car, there are certain terms and conditions and
the small
things that
print.
It's basic.
But that's all supposed to be
transaction.
there on the info sheet at the moment of the jab. Are you saying you knew someone, Rob, a reliable person who's had it, but they weren't offered that
didn't
information?
sign a consent and they didn't get a list of...
They
they might have got a list of side effects, but I think, I'm not too sure if it was explained how significant it could be or.
You look at the data sheets for ibuprofen or paracetamol. They're horrendous as well.
Oh, they're very long.
They're very long, and the potential side effects are huge. So the people who go, take a Nurofen and see what happens. They're all there. Doesn't mean to say you're not going to take it because of it. I take the odd ibuprofen for headaches, and
Sure, same.
It does the job, and I'm hunky dory.
Yeah.
But this is different. This injection's different because it is gene modifying.
An mRNA.
Yes.
Gene
and the data
modifying
is
system.
coming out. It turns your blood cells into little pancakes, and they stack up like they shouldn't stack up. It changes the magnetic properties and electrical properties of your blood vessels.
Yeah, that's not even conspiratorial. But some
that's
people,
major.
as soon as you say magnetic, people freak out. But
that's huge.
It's
Can you
changing
go
the
a bit
electrical
deeper into
system
that?
of blood cells, right?
Yeah, we are electrical beings. Our hearts are electrical.
Yes.
Our blood vessels have electrical properties. All of our cells.
Absolutely. Yeah.
All of our
totally.
cells.
Yeah.
Well, a blood vessel. A blood cell has to be able to hold oxygen, and it has an ability to do so through bonds and covalent bonds, and that's an electrical type of system.
That's right.
That's how it carries oxygen through with it and releases it for carbon dioxide.
And it's showing clearly on microscopic slides now that the blood cells are behaving in a way that is not conducive to health.
Are we seeing this on what's called a Ddimer test, or am I misspeaking?
Yeah, the Ddimer test shows clotting.
Shows clotting.
Yeah,
right.
It's probably best to have a Ddimer test before you have an injection, so that after the injection, if any problems happen, you've got a comparison, like your base rate versus what's happening now. Well, my dad, before he died, my brother demanded a Ddimer test, and it came up like 80%. And he wasn't 80% before, but we didn't have that baseline.
How on earth did your brother have the wisdom to demand that from the hospital system that your father was in?
He can see through the whole thing. He can just...
Is he like you?
Yeah.
Is he quite sciencey?
Yes. He went to the hospital in Australia and wasn't getting anywhere until he actually said, look, I'm a scientist.
Really?
Yeah. And he does have a Bachelor of Science. It happens to be in zoology.
Okay.
But he just said to the specialist, I'm a scientist. And the scientist just thought, the look on his face was, rats.
Really?
Yes. And that specialist never turned up again. Other specialists came in.
Fascinating. Fascinating.
Look, there's so many reasons. The doctors and nurses in that hospital had been injected themselves.
Yeah.
Do they want to see what's going on? Maybe not. Have they been paid? Don't know. You know, sometimes facing, this is that someone's lied to me thing. They can't face what's in front of them.
I often think about the people who are encouraging huge numbers of people to get this jab and who are towing the PR line but aren't necessarily looking at the science, and who very readily dismiss valid scientific concerns that can be brought up and referred to from PubMed, from a Cochrane review, from all kinds of...
They scream at you, don't they?
You know,
they get angry.
They get upset, and you could sort of say, but hang on, I've shown you this, that, and another piece of legitimate information, a reputable article that's written, a report that highlights something that isn't speaking to the PR, that the warm-voiced lady who tells you that the best way out of this is for your freedoms back. For your freedoms, not your health, but for your freedoms back is to get the vaccine. They're telling you, you're reading something that's totally different to the narrative, and they just can't cope with it. But I'm concerned for the people that are encouraging others, because if this leads to a point down the track where people are harmed from a rushed vaccine...
It is.
What are those people?
We are there. We're not if. We are there. There's 190-something people that have died, I think.
In New Zealand?
Yes. Not on MedSafe, but through citizen reporting.
Right.
The thing is, the programming has been intense and for a long time. And when I did the NLP training, it involved learning how to put people into trance or hypnosis.
Right.
There's a bunch of neurolinguistic programming is actually a really good thing. It's the strategy of success. So you've figured out how to get out of depression. How did you get out of depression? Let me run through each step intimately, and we will put forward a strategy and we'll get you out of that depression, because if you did it, I can teach that to someone else. So it's successful strategies. However, this has been used for nefarious purposes. And trance and hypnosis work involves a whole bunch of steps that you do that will put you into hypnosis. And the most interesting thing is, half of the NLP trainers that I've trained with, and I've trained in Australia, New Zealand, Ireland, England and America and Holland, half of them can't see it because they're under the hypnosis themselves. They're under that trance themselves. They cannot see it.
They can't see the obvious techniques in the PR campaign?
No, they can't see it. I've had some interesting conversations, and now I'm blocked by quite a few of my previous NLP trainers. So the people that, on stage, the person who can't lift that chair or the person running around like a chicken can't see that he's running around like a chicken. So these NLP trainers themselves have been sucked in.
My God,
Wow.
I don't pertain to have NLP skills, but even I can see through the media. And Rob and I, we talk about this a lot. I remember at the beginning of the pandemic, and I've mentioned this before, but the filter used by the editors in the news articles as they led into the news had this sort of dusty, airy sense of particles in the air. And by filter, I mean a video filter that sets up the look and feel of the light state in the story.
Oh my God.
As they flick between people in PPE, and then there's another shot, someone
and
in a drive-through testing unit.
This
and
dusty viral effect floating.
Yes.
Oh, that's disgusting.
Yeah, along with the images, of course, of the spike protein, big scary green or red thing. Yeah. And it sickened me because I was like, look, it's right there in front of you. But you sort of see through it because you're watching a thing. But part of that reality is, it's like snow falling.
You can compare it to it's just theatre.
Yeah.
It's just a show.
Yes.
Orchestrated theatre. And it's interesting, the power of suggestion and the programming of the subconscious mind. Because it is so powerful. You don't even know that you're operating on that automatic level and responses and stuff.
Yep.
And I've always said this before, that your diet is not just what you eat, it's the information you consume.
Yeah.
It's the people you surround yourself with. at the base level, everything is energy.
Mm-hmm.
And so you're either tapping into energy that is good for you or bad for you. But it's crazy that even the NLP trainers, why do you think that is? Why do you think that they also succumbed to a program and were susceptible to it?
I have no idea.
It's just
some
fascinates
people
me.
are easily put into a trance, and others just somehow come out of it. You think of all those hypnosis shows that everyone used to do a few years ago, and how
Darren
I was a big fan of Paul McKenna.
Yes.
Do you remember Paul McKenna? I've read a number
Irish
of
guy.
books, and they've really helped me because the power of suggestion. But it's just so crazy how our mind can be apprehended by something, and we don't really even know it. We are in a trance. We're kind of
and that can be used for good. So I used to work with my clients and put them in a semi-trance. I don't say I'd ever be good enough to make you behave like a chicken or bark like a dog. But we used to go into trance to access that unconscious mind.
Yeah.
That and there's something I like to pick up on. I never call it the subconscious mind. It makes it seem inferior or smaller. But the unconscious mind is bigger, and it goes out beyond us. It is always looking around us, even though we're not conscious of it. It's there to protect us. So our unconscious mind can be used to access so many things for good, but it can be manipulated for rotten purposes. Anyway, we can see it.
We certainly can, and we're seeing a lot of changes taking place in the world, and there are some good people who are involved in this dystopia in ways that I'm now stepping back from and just letting it play out, because I don't want my energy to orbit around it too much.
Feed the dross, and you don't want to go there.
Not to say that I'm not, and I continue to be quite impressed by this one particular group that I mentioned to you the other day, Project Veritas. Shout out to them if they ever listen to us. But they're an American crowd who are doing amazing things. Have you seen these guys, Rob?
I have, I've touched on a little bit of it, yep.
Which one did you see?
I can't even remember, but I know you've sent me a couple of videos.
They do this thing where they're getting people to admit to things that are in recorded conversations.
Yeah.
And over lunch, and you've got these Pfizer scientists admitting that your own immunity is many, many, many times stronger than what can be conferred from a vaccine. And you've got other ones concerned about things like the safety data or lack of, and their awareness of myocarditis and how it's really harming people. And these have been coming out. This one came out just a couple of hours ago, and I might just play it because it's catching up with one of their chief scientists on her morning run after she reported in her own emails to someone about the danger of cell lines. And if you can speak to this, Paula, please do. I'll just bring this up so Rob can see it as well.
Are you Vanessa? Vanessa Gelman. I'm a reporter with Project Veritas.
Vanessa Gelman, who works in Washington, D.C., is Senior Director of Worldwide Research. From Vanessa Gelman.
From the perspective of corporate affairs, we want to avoid having the information on the fetal cell lines floating out there. We believe that the risk of communicating this right now outweighs any potential benefit that we could see, particularly with general members of the public who may take this information and use it in ways we may not want it out there.
Miss, why did you send emails telling Pfizer employees not to report that you guys were using fetal cell lining, miss? What else are you hiding from the public? Miss, what else are you hiding from the public? The public needs to know. Well, there you have it. We wanted to ask her a few questions. She broke out into a sprint. We really think that the public needs to know about the fetal cell lining emails. And we tried to get a comment. She ran. Sometimes they don't want to answer for the fraud that they're committing or the corruption that's going on. We try our best, and the really only question now is who's next. Wow.
There she is scurrying away.
She really ran.
Yeah, she really. As soon as that presenter came up to her. I'm amazed at what's starting to come out, dripping out day by day. What is meant by the fetal cell lines?
The fetal cell lines are I'm not an expert on this by any stretch, but the fetal cell lines are from aborted babies and cells from the baby. So they are putting someone else's DNA into you, and it's from a baby.
Right.
I can't really say much more about it. It's just not nice.
Yeah, I've heard similar things, and I heard in one instance there was a young fetus, young because he was aborted at 8.5 months, so virtually full term, in 1986, and ever since his cells have been reproduced
multiple times,
reproduced across the world to go into various vaccines, I think. And another lady who died in 1956, her cell line's been used as well. A black lady, I think her name was Rosita. Not sure if that was her first name, but her last name was Lax, like lacking or lax. So Rosita Lax, if I'm correct there on that name, died of cancer in 1956, and prior to that, cells were taken from her in a swab without her consent for what they would then go on to be used for. Good God. Yeah.
That's disgraceful. The economy of truth is as damaging as a lie, in my opinion. It builds into this trust that we have. It's like, oh, they're telling me all this information, but the economy of truth, leaving stuff out, is just as damaging as lying to your face. And so on that note, I'd like to bring up the economy of truth of medicine. Medicine is available that works 100%. Ivermectin, hydroxychloroquine works 100%. You use it with zinc, vitamin D3, and if you are sick, antibiotics, doxycycline, azithromycin, I think, was used as well. The economy of truth with our podium of truth is shocking. So what they're doing is keeping you in a state of suspense and fear. They're not telling you that medicine is available, and they've actually made moves to restrict the use of ivermectin and hydroxychloroquine. Yes, ivermectin is a horse drench.
Sure. But
so what? It has decades of safety.
Yeah.
I only ever dispensed it 3 times in my 30-year career to old folks' homes who had scabies outbreaks. So it's really good for
it works on a bunch of
people, young people, and horses. So
it works on a bunch of mammals.
It is
doesn't it?
A bunch of mammals. Yes,
yeah.
It is being withheld.
Yeah,
that's criminal to me. It's criminal. But as soon as I mention it, the people who are under the trance will scream at you.
I looked into ivermectin recently, and it won a Nobel Peace Prize.
It did
in 2015.
No, I bet you wish they never. They wish they never gave that one up.
I know. Merck must be gutted because they're profiting or about to majorly profit from a slightly adjusted version of ivermectin, which they're saying doesn't really do anything. Right? They're saying that they're trashing and throwing under the bus their own medicine that won the 2015 Nobel Peace Prize for use in humans, cured river blindness around the world, and so many other things. It's brilliant at getting rid of parasites. It's known for its viral ability, and here am I telling you, the pharmacist, I apologise, but that's what I've come to learn through quick and easily looking into things and searching.
It's easy to find, isn't it?
Yeah.
And used for prophylaxis as well. So India, parts of India are using it. Now there's a lot of people that live in India, and there are millions of people that have been issued ivermectin, doxycycline and zinc. Zinc's really important. Yeah. In a little card, it costs about $3.
Right.
And they have gotten rid of COVID.
Boy, they have nailed the art of reproducing that drug that is off patent.
Yes.
But this one that Merck are going to produce that will put it back onto patent, and it'll get approved for.
And it's going to be very expensive, I believe.
It's $700 for $700 US is its intended price that I saw, versus for a full course versus the retail price in the US for ivermectin is $40.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
and that's the original manufacturer's version of it.
How wrong is that?
Yeah.
How wrong is that?
Yeah.
And it raises a really good point or question. If it really was about your health, then surely if there are other options and approaches that are going to benefit,
they'd be hanging out for it, wouldn't they?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there's different ways of approaching
Yes.
this, and yet there seems to be just one way being told to us,
Yes.
and
And it's
and
not actually doing a good job.
imposed on us.
Mm.
So, I mean, I'm sure with other illnesses and diseases, there are just multiple options and approaches. And I know people that have
Combinations of medical approaches to it.
that works best for you. And so, just to have that one kind of, this is it, one blanket approach, and then, that's it.
It's not about our health.
It doesn't add up. It doesn't add up.
Why should there be just one solution for something anyway? I mean, I was listening to someone talk about in a range of illnesses that you encounter as a human, you can have one type of drug for one part of that illness, another type for the bacterial complications, another thing for something else, I mean, if you get all full of the flu, you might take something for a decongestion and
then need something for constipation.
and then it goes on and on. One of the things that really annoys me is that when people are supposedly marked by the PCR test as being someone who has, COVID-19 right now, and this assumes you even accept that the PCR is a reliable way of determining and diagnosing someone, but that aside, that you can be sent home into your MIQ with Panadol.
Do
That's
they even
it?
give you Panadol?
Well, or if that, but I mean, I heard that you can have, but that's not early treatment. That's
No.
not treating something. And in every other illness, as far as I'm aware, you don't leave it until a person needs to be on a ventilator or is really in trouble that needs to be hospitalized. You give them a course of something, and these things exist and they're just ignoring them.
Yes. It's not about our health.
Whereas early treatment with Ivermectin and other things
Well,
apparently
now that
is
we know about
incredibly useful.
I never knew it was for that. When I was in my career, I never knew about Ivermectin being used for other things, but I've since found a lot of medicine that has been suppressed. One that I used to sell over the counter used for lung cancer.
Mm-hmm.
I found lots and lots, and there's also other modalities that work, like I mentioned, homeopathy, kinesiology. It's there's a whole lot of changes coming though, which is very, very exciting.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think all these illnesses it's going to change big time.
Right. Yeah.
Maybe not this week, but
no.
it's coming.
And it's easy to, like for me at least, it's easy to be angry about these things when you hear them for the first time. I'm not so much now. I mean, I'm not a doctor. I just learn about these things by looking and searching and looking at reputable articles. I think for me it was the Argentina protocol that I was reading about, and that's because in Argentina doctors have extensive use with Ivermectin because of the symptoms they suffer in that country to do with things like parasites and stuff.
Right, yes.
And so they know how to use it, and they know how well tolerated and safe it is. They know it hardly affects people negatively unless you were to give them too much. So obviously dosage is important.
It's rather important.
Exceptionally, but
Yes.
if you get it right as per the protocol, and it's really only using small amounts, it can be used prophylactically in advance of something and in treatment and in good in early stages, and even has a positive effect in late stages. But it's not as good then.
Yeah.
It's not as good then at all.
You want to get onto it early, but it does work rather well for a lot of people in late stages. Hydroxychloroquine is another one that has got, I think, 65 years worth of safety data behind it.
Years.
And when it's used in the correct dosage, it's very, very, very safe. However, so one of the trials that went on, they were using 10 times the suggested dose intravenously, which is like unheard of. It's criminal. And that did cause heart problems, as expected. But they were using it in a trial on very sick people, and that's wrong. However, that and the fact that a certain president, starting with T, mentioned it, it got ridiculed. Now, when something's ridiculed in the media, you have to wonder what they're trying to put you off.
Yeah, and why. That's right.
Smoke and mirrors.
Yeah.
Could be a good name for the episode, Rob.
Yeah. But, for me, like my immune system, I trust that 100%.
Yeah.
You know,
And
I've got
support
this
it.
far in life and overcome, you know, nothing serious because obviously I'm into health and fitness and I look after myself. But I just trust in that connection, you know, that mind, body, spiritual, physical, just that connection.
So what might you say to someone who's
Yeah.
got an autoimmune problem where their body attacks themselves?
Ah, right. Yeah. Well, I'm a big believer, as you say, taking that, you know, inner journey of connecting to maybe unresolved trauma, or, I mean, look, I'm not an expert, I can only talk about my own journey. But I think it sets you on a path of discovering more about who you really are and what you're about.
Yeah.
And learning and growth. And if something is not in harmony, we talked about this, in resonance, then something's out of an alignment, something's not flowing. And so I feel like modern medicine just masks problems and symptoms and distracts and keeps you basically on taking it because it makes more money. You know, there's that perspective. Whereas when you can tune in to your own wisdom and knowledge and start learning about the things about your own body, then, you know, you kind of get a better understanding of how you work, and you're not handing that power over so much. Sure, there are people, you know, that are experts in their fields, and you can take that all on board. But yeah, I mean, look, it's such a complex. The human organism is so
incredibly
complex.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And I suppose it's up to everyone's individual journey. And this is what I want to get to, is that it's your free will and on how you want to approach your own well-being. Yeah, that for me is empowering, you know, to take ownership of that and responsibility. And I'm still learning and I'm still growing and always will be.
Yeah.
And I don't always get it right. But it's still having that curiosity and I guess, you know, love for your own self as well.
That's a
you know?
biggie.
It's a big one.
Yeah.
You know, what are the things that you're carrying that you can work on and maybe transmute and heal and learn from? And so, yeah.
Yeah. You mentioned unresolved grief and trauma. That's where a lot of my work with my clients went. Unresolved grief and unresolved trauma.
Yeah.
That
Yes.
sets the body up for dis-ease.
Yeah. You're that sort of suppressing emotion, suppressing. I mean, you can get really woo-woo on it and do like generational stuff and past life stuff, carrying that over. But yeah, it's having that real kind of multi-faceted and multi-dimensional approach to things, and not just a linear one way.
Power
Because that's
to the
not how
white
we're
coat.
built. You
Yes.
know, we're not. We have so many different. I mean, just look at your senses, you know, and how you interact with the world, and then just look into nature, and you can see how that operates. So, yeah, it's for me what comes up is when something is seemingly seen as good, but it's a distorted version of it. It doesn't have a pure kind of essence to it, and so I feel like that has been such a big thing in society that's been playing out for so long, and a lot of this stuff is now coming to the surface and being exposed,
Yeah.
and people are waking up to it,
It's nice.
and that's a good thing, because the new reality is emerging, whether you can feel it, see it. It's definitely happening.
Yeah, it really is. Thank you so much for your time with us today. I really appreciate it. And if you ever want to pop back and talk again on something else, please let us know. I value your time greatly.
Will do. You guys are on the right track with
Thank you so much, Paula,
you're
for
putting
joining
out
us and
Pleasure.
Imparting your wisdom, your knowledge, and I always get so much from every guest that joins us on Reality Hub, and because we all have such a unique perspective on life and a journey, and it's so nice that we can connect and that you can share that with us and our audience as well.
Thanks for having the platform.
Appreciate that.
Cheers. And to people listening right now, stay grounded and keep shining.